Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of The Dan Dawson Show. So, I've been sitting here for probably an hour and a half, trying to figure out how to discuss this topic. And the issue is really patriotic black man and why I love the flag so much. And I'm going to give you a story. It's a true story. It's not based on truth, it is a true story. This is what happened to me. So, I joined the Army at 18. And honestly, going to combat, always sought combat. Really didn't care if I lived or died. Anyway, so in 1993, when I was at Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, I met this guy, Randall Harris. Became friends. Unfortunately, lifelong friends. So we hung out the whole time we were in Hawaii. Great guy. Was a great guy. Rest his soul. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep it together for you guys and to get the story out. So when I came to Fort Lewis, Washington, I was a new soldier. I'd been here maybe a couple of weeks. And I walk into the aid station. I was a scout medic. So I work with the scouts and snipers. And whoever you work with, that's who you're with, right? But I came into the aid station one day to resupply. They were like, hey, we got this corporal here from, he was at Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. Maybe you know him. And it's Sergeant Harris. Or he wasn't a sergeant at the time, he was corporal. But it was Randy. We'd hung out in Hawaii. We hung out in Washington State. Went to Germany. We kept in contact. Came back to Fort Lewis, Washington at the same time. And we had our little rituals when you hang out with a guy for... We came back to Fort Lewis in 2000. So when you've known a guy every day and you see him every day, you talk to him every day, you develop your little rituals. One of our rituals was watching wrestling. Our mothers were close. We would talk to each other's mothers. We'd wish them happy birthdays and stuff like that. You know, because that's how that life goes. So I still remember Randy bought a car. And we were test driving it. And we drove that son of a bitch from Olympia back. And or were we coming from? We were coming from somewhere. I don't know. It might have been a party. And he was like Dan, because he called me Dan. I called him Randy. But whenever we were in formation, I called him Sergeant Harris. Whenever we were in uniform, I called him Sergeant Harris, because that's called respect, people. Respect. I'm not going to disrespect his rank. I'm not going to disrespect who he is. So we're driving back. We may have actually went to eat in Olympia back when you could actually walk through Olympia without stepping over homeless people and piss in the streets. But we're driving back and he goes, Dan, I love you. I love you like a brother. And I didn't say anything. I was just silent. Silent. And to this day, I regret that. But now you're wondering why this has to do with why I love that flag so much. So, fast forward a few months. And I'm moving from one apartment to another, right? One of the guys had let me use their truck to help me move stuff, I think a bed and stuff, right? But I hadn't told anybody where I moved to. The same day I had moved, right? And I had taken that day and the next day for vacation days. It was a Thursday, Friday. Then, of course, we were off Saturday, Sunday. So Thursday night, for all of you old school heads, remember WCW Thunder used to be on Thursday nights. So every Thursday, me and Randy watched Thunder together. I hadn't even had a chance to tell him where I moved to, right? But I get a knock at my door. And I go answer the door, and it's Randy. I was like, hey, man, how'd you find me? He was like, brother, I had to track you down. So we're sitting there. He was there for maybe 5 minutes. We're watching the beginning of Thunder. And he gets ready to go. He's like, I got to go. I'm like, why? It's like, I got people I have to see. I'm like, bro, we always watch wrestling together. Why aren't you watching wrestling with me? And he goes, Dan, I'm running out of TikToks. And I got stuff I got to do. I didn't think anything about it at the time. It never crossed my mind to think anything about it. The next morning I wake up to a knock at my door. It's one of my E4s. Tall white guy. He's like, Sergeant Dawson. He's in uniform. Sergeant Dawson, do you have anything to drink? I'm like, son, you're on duty. I'm not going to give you anything to drink. Are you out of your mind? He goes, it's not for me, it's for you. And I'm like, what? What's the Army doing now? I'm a good soldier. I stay out of trouble. I was like, well, what the fuck ever. I don't even give a fuck, right? So I pull out my Jack Daniels, pull out a shot glass, take a shot, right? And he goes, take another shot. I'm like, what? Specialist Johnson, I'll never forget his name. He's like, take another shot. So I took 2 shots. He goes, you might want to take another one. I'm like, whatever. So I pull out the 3rd shot, light up a Newport. I'm like, what? What is going on? Like, what the hell has happened? And I'm trying to think back. Like, what did I do? I didn't do anything. Because usually shit like that, they're coming to take your rank and shit like that. But usually they tell you that shit in company. He goes, we were out running PT this morning. I'm like, oh, fuck. Because I'd have this one soldier who would not get out of bed for shit. And I'm like, dude, you come over to disturb me, I'll fucking bust his ass on Monday. But I'm not going to bother with it on my weekend. Especially not on the vacation weekend. And he goes, no. He goes, we're running PT. Staff Sergeant Harris had a heart attack and died. And they need you to come and ID the body. And that rocked my whole world. Changed everything for me. Because he wasn't old. Let me try to rush through this. I'm sorry, people. I'm going to try to rush through it for you. So, the first sergeant, this Iranian motherfucker, I hate him to this day. I hate him to the core. I hope he burns in hell. But I requested to escort Sergeant Harris's body home. And he said no. And I'll never forget, Randy's mother called the post commander. And she told him, sorry, apologize. If you don't send Sergeant Dawson home with my son, then don't send my son home. So, of course, the first sergeant called me and said, hey, are your Class A's ready? I'm like, my Class A's are always ready. But I wasn't ready. I don't think anybody can ever be ready to get on a plane from Fort Lewis, Washington, with their best friend's body in a box underneath them. We had 2 stopovers. Remember one stopover? I want to say it was Los Angeles. I'm not really sure. Sitting there in Class A's. This old white guy comes up and he goes, "Thank you for your service." So what you have to do at the stopovers, and keep in mind this is my best friend, somebody who I consider a brother, is you have to salute that casket when it goes to the next plane. You have to escort it to the next plane. And then you have to sit there to the next stop, sitting on top of it. And then when Randy got to his destination of New Orleans, you have to guard the body. I don't think I was ready for that. But people wonder why I love the American flag so much. Because I've actually buried a dear friend under it. I've actually escorted his body all the way across the country under that flag. I've lost other friends under that flag, but that's the most poignant story that I have. And I'll never forget when I landed in New Orleans and I was talking to his mother. And she said, when I saw the chaplain and a sergeant come to my door, I knew what was happening. I knew my son had died. Until you watch your best friend being lowered into a grave and hearing taps being played, you will never know. And that's why it gets me so angry that you so-called veterans, you sit and pack your dead paperwork, or you've never buried anybody under that flag. You'll never get it. You never will. But that's why I love the flag so much. If you're going to burn that flag, I'm not with that. You're an enemy. War's coming. Because you have no respect. So line it up. And make sure you're ready. Make sure you're ready. And you have no issue with being buried under whatever flag you fly. If I'm buried under the United States flag, I have no problems with that. I love that flag. I buried my brother under that flag. So thank you for watching this episode of the Dan Dawson Show. It's a very personal episode. Like I said, I fought a long time to get this episode up and to try to do it without getting emotional. This was 2000 people. It's 2020. It's 20 years later, and it still hits me hard. But do what you gotta do. Like, subscribe, whatever, share. All right, thank you.